exactly where we are. This country is called the Czech Republic and not Czechoslovakia, as I sometimes hear, usually from people from a certain country. Not going to name any names, of course. America, but it's called the Czech Republic. It was Czechoslovakia before 1993. We're going to go right back to a time when this place was known as Bohemia, and we're going to go right back to the golden age of Bohemia and the time of a guy called King Charles IV. Now, if any of you have been around Prague already, you may have noticed that there are many things here which are named after Charles. We've got the Charles Square, Charles Bridge, Charles University, and all of these things were established by probably the most celebrated guy in all of Czech history, this guy King Charles IV. Now, King Charles IV was born actually in this building just to the left here. You see this rectangular stone building? Between the church and the building here, got a rectangular stone building. Now this building is called the House at the Stone Bell, and this is where King Charles IV was born in 1319. This is where they claim he was born. They claim he was born in this building. It's not historically fact, but they claim in this building that that's where he was born. Now, King Charles IV spent most of his youth in Paris, and Paris at the time was a huge cultural centre. This was the leading light in Europe in terms of culture. And King Charles went to university there. He actually learned 6 different languages while he was in Paris. He learned arts, he learned all about culture, and he brought all of that knowledge back with him to Prague. And in the process, he completely transformed this city into one of the most culturally rich and economically prosperous cities in the whole of Europe. And Prague actually became a city to rival Paris at the time in terms of arts and culture. These were the 2 leading lights in the whole continent. This country also became a centre of the Holy Roman Empire as well under King Charles IV. So he made this place quite a big deal. King Charles IV then, he died in 1378 and he left the throne to his son, a guy called King Wenceslas. Now this is not good King Wenceslas. This is like bad King Wenceslas or pissed King Wenceslas. He was an alcoholic, womanizer, no interest really in being king, and all of the good work that King Charles had done for this country, King Wenceslas just undid all of that good work basically. But it was under Wenceslas's reign that this guy here in the statue came to prominence. See this big tall guy in the Greek statue? This is a guy called Yan Gus. Now, Yan Gus was a Catholic priest here, and he used to preach around the city. As he was preaching around the city, he noticed that there were a few problems with the way that the Catholic Church was run here. First problem with the Catholic Church was that if you wanted to commit a crime here, right? For example, if you wanted to do like a murder or something like that, you could do your murder, go to the church, give them a little bit of money, and all would be forgotten. No problem at all, no punishment, nothing. Not only that, but if you decided that you wanted to do a murder, maybe like next month, but you'd just been paid, got the money now, you need to budget for that month, you could actually prepay to do that crime. So imagine you go to the church, give them some money, they give you a little ticket or something like that you can cash in, and then you're free to go and do your murder, do what you like. This is a true story. It was known as indulgences, and this guy Yan Gus hated that, and after a while he started to gather quite a big following of people known as the Hussites, mainly made up of the poorer classes here in Prague who couldn't afford to pay to do murders, things like that. Now, after a while, the Hussites got pretty big and the Catholics didn't like this. They were a threat to the Catholic Church. So what the Catholics did, they arrested this guy on the 6th of July 1415, and they actually burnt him at the stake on that day. And this day is commemorated every year here. It's known as Yan Hus Day. It's actually going to be 600-year anniversary in 6 days' time. So, yeah, if any of you are here. The Hussites then were very angry that their leader had just been burnt at the stake, as she would be. So what they did, they decided to get revenge on the Catholics. So what they did, they stormed the old town hall of Prague, which is a building across the city in the Charles Square. They stormed the building, they climbed to the top of the building, they grabbed every Catholic councilman that they could there, and they threw them out of the window. Now this is known as a defenestration. Defenestration is like the technical term for like throwing people out of windows. Now I had no idea what a defenestration was until I came to Prague. It turns out they're quite common here. There's been 3 major defenestrations in the city. This was the first one. This is how you make a statement here, guys. If you don't like somebody, just throw them out the window. Yeah, that's how you deal with people here. Now, this caused a huge war, 1418 to 1434. These guys, the Hussites against the Catholics. Nobody really won that war. By 1434, it was clear that no one was going to win the war, so the two sides made peace. They were at peace for 200 years. And during those 200 years, these guys, the Hussites, joined the Protestant church. So now you've got Protestants and Catholics, which has never always been a very good mix, really. So by the time we got to the 1600s, the Protestants felt still like nothing had changed really here in Prague. Nothing had changed in the Catholic Church. And everything came to a big head in the year 1618 when the Protestants decided we can't take this anymore. And they decided, right, it's time for us to make a statement against the Catholics. And how do we make a statement?
Out the window.
Absolutely, yes, throw people out the window. So the Protestants had a bit of a meeting and they decided, like, right guys, it's time for another defenestration. So this time up at Prague Castle, which is where we'll go in a few minutes, Protestants stormed Prague Castle, threw 2 Catholic councilmen out of the window. This is the second defenestration of Prague. This caused a huge war here called the 30 Years' War. 1618 to 1648, Protestants against Catholics, whole of Europe got involved, killed 10% of Europe's population, absolutely devastating. The Protestants lost one very important battle in that war, called the Battle of Bila Hora, and they lost that to a very wealthy Catholic family called the Habsburgs. Now the Habsburgs are an Austrian family. And when they won that battle in 1620, this country became under their Habsburg Empire, which later became the Austro-Hungarian Empire. And this country was under Austria-Hungary all the way up until Austria-Hungary was defeated at the end of the First World War, 1918. And that's when this place became Czechoslovakia for the first time. And that brings to an end my little history speech, guys. You can tune in again now. I promise none of my other speeches will be that long. I'll tell you a little bit about the Second World War and about communism a little bit later in the tour, but I promise it won't be as long as that. I'll just point out some other buildings for you. You see this big church here, this Gothic church. This Gothic facade here dates back to 1385. This is another one of King Charles IV's designs here. Does anybody notice anything a little bit strange about that church there? There's something about that church that isn't quite right.
It has 2 towers.
Yes, it's got 2 towers, yeah. A lot of Gothic churches actually did have 2 towers at that time, but it is about the towers. There's something wrong with those towers. Yeah, that's it, absolutely. Yeah, you're actually only the 3rd person to get that. Yeah, that's it, yeah, it's very observant, I like it. The tower on the right is actually wider than the tower on the left there. The tower on the right represents masculinity, and the tower on the left represents femininity. And this was decided about 6 months after those towers were built. Yes, so yeah, the architects did mess this up quite a little bit. Didn't measure that properly and had to assign some kind of meaning to it, and that's what they decided to assign to that. Okay, just behind us then here actually as well, we've got the St. Nicholas Church. Very nice Baroque church there. This church is actually a Hussite church. So this church is a church of this guy, Yan Gus, and his followers. Hussites are still around today. Not all of them joined the Protestant church. It still exists as a branch of the Protestant church today. Okay then guys, right. What we'll do then, we'll take a walk down here. We'll go and have a look at Prague Castle now, from this side of the river. So, what have we got? Find some shade.